Good morning, folks. This is the Black Trekker. I'd like to say thank you for taking the time out your day, morning, evening, or night to sit back and join with me on another wonderful topic of discussion. Like, share, and subscribe. I think back to all of the TV shows that I've watched, and also I think back to why I actually enjoy watching Star Trek. Like, what is the reasoning behind me being such a fan? And I think back to when I was a young lad, a young boy sitting in front of my 13-inch television in Pensacola, Florida. And I had the little antennas in the back of it, making sure that it was not fuzzing out. And I have to say that the CGI rendering back then wasn't that great compared to now, of course. But seeing the Enterprise D appear, because I didn't grow up in the era of James T. Kirk in the original series. It was the Next Generation. And it was more on the lines of like the 90s. When it first came out in 1988, I wasn't watching it at that particular moment. But like 1992-ish, 93-ish, I was definitely on board with Star Trek: The Next Generation. So when I saw this big, massive ship coming, and then the music, I believe the person who created it was like Jerry Goldstein or something to that effect. When the music was coming on, it was inspirational. Da, 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 da. It's really like some Luciano Pavarotti type of music that he would be singing behind. That right there was inspirational. I'm like, I love this show. Because it had the depiction of a future that anybody from poverty could be able to come up and better themselves and have a position of noteworthiness and notoriety. I mean, if you're posted on Enterprise D, trust and believe you are a celebrity. Not to discount anybody from any other ships throughout Star Trek them, but you are a celebrity bona fide because that's the flagship of the Federation. And if you on that ship, you famous. Now, with that being said, what character did I most respect or like when I initially started watching Star Trek? And I have to say, I really resonated with Commander Data. Because Commander Data was an android. And he was an android, but he was perfect. And I mean perfect at everything, but he was imperfect. He's physically stronger, physically faster, intellectually smarter than we are. But he still craves and desires to be human, more human. Something that, from my perspective, I've been human all my life. All my issues, all my flaws, all my insecurities, all my issues that I deal with, he wishes to be. He wishes to emulate. He wishes to aspire to have. So, and in all contexts, to be honest with you, as Data progressed, his character arc grew to a certain extent where he was really the personification of what it meant to be human. Which was crazy because he was more human than a lot of humans were that were depicted on Star Trek. He was the type of friend that you could rely on. Like his friendship that he had with Geordi LaForge, I was like, dude, that's the type of friendship that I want in somebody for real in my own life. So from that perspective, I was like, yeah, definitely. I need to watch more of this show so I can understand and be able to gain a better insight on my own humanity. And at the time I was a kid, I didn't know what that meant, but on my own humanity, on my own perspective of life, and then also to be able to incorporate the context of me being a Star Trek fan. Now, who was the next person I gravitated to? Now, I'm not going to lie. I'll tell you some people that I didn't like as well. I didn't like Pulaski. I didn't like her attitude, especially when she was coming after my boy. And my boy at that particular moment was Commander Data. Now, Lieutenant Commander Data was my boy. I ain't like that she referred to him as an it. I ain't like that at all. I was warming up to Beverly Crusher, and I who didn't like Counselor Troy? I mean, for real, who didn't like her? So with that being said, I would say that my next partner was Lieutenant Commander Worf. Lieutenant Commander Worf was my boy. Although when the series first started, I should say, Lieutenant Commander Worf wasn't head of security. So it was Tasha Yar. She was head of security. And I liked Tasha Yar just fine, She was all right, but I wasn't, sad that she left, or rather she got killed off. I wasn't sad about that because I was like, my boy Worf, he finally get to be in the forefront. And in my mindset was he was a Klingon. Why is he not head of security? He got to be head of security. Who going to be able to secure something like a Klingon? And that's what it is. Commander Worf was able to secure that. And one thing I liked about Worf was he really was the personification of really looking out for his captain. Now, I know number one was the second in command of the Enterprise. And it was his duty to make sure that Captain Picard didn't do too much risky stuff and he ain't going dangerous missions and whatnot, stuff like that. But Worf was for real Picard's bodyguard. Like, he was going to beam him down, I'll go with you, Captain. And he was like, that won't be necessary, Mr. Worf. And Picard shut Worf down a lot because he was like, all right, he felt like he was being like a mother hen, like watching him so much. But that's his job because he was loyal to his captain. And I learned when I was growing up, because aspects of my own life were, you'll learn about later on, is, growing up in a single family home, I wasn't able to have the instillment in the guidance of a father figure. So with that being said, watching Lieutenant Commander Worf and watching Captain Picard, I had that de facto father figure type of in my life where Captain Picard was a man of integrity, highly intelligent, and how they spoke, how they interacted with each other. I was like, okay, these are characteristics of a man that I would like to be when I grow up. So let me best emulate how they talk, how they conduct themselves, how their interactions. When Worf spoke to somebody, when Worf spoke to another man, he looked at that man face up, eye to eye. No hesitation, no looking away, none of that nonsense. It was just looking straight in the eye and making his point clear and speaking with a tone that was to be respected. And no different than Picard. When Picard would speak, he would look you straight in the eye, he would talk to you directly, and he would present his facts, and he would be unwavering from it. But also, he would be able to acknowledge when he was wrong and when he made a mistake, which I valued. And I would be able to see this over and over and over again. And this would be the embodiment of their characteristics. And I was like, those are what, and I took a little bit, and why I like Star Trek, I took a little bit of characteristics from Worf, a little bit of characteristics from Data, a little bit of characteristics from Picard, and I applied it in my own self, in my own life. And it has molded me into the type of man that I am. And I could say that could be taken from other TV shows. Other television shows that are not related to Star Trek whatsoever. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Uncle Phil, Family Matters, Uncle Carl Winslow. All of those characteristics. Steve Urkel from Family Matters, being a scientist. And I would also say my love of engineering, my love of science and technology comes from Star Trek 100%. Those L cars, lightings, before we've had touchscreen. I mean, we got touchscreen now. But in the 1980s, early 90s, we didn't have touchscreen unless it was like on some secret military spy plane or spy ship or whatever, or facility. We didn't have touchscreen. So now we have touchscreen. That's a real technology. Now we have cell phones. That's a real technology. Now we have laptops. We have tablets. They had tablets on Star Trek Next Generation. They had something equivalent to that on Star Trek, the original series. But Star Trek Next Generation, Picard was walking around with like this flat panel display that he could touch and look at videos, and he can look at like documents and stuff. That was the precursor of tablets. That was a precursor of MacBooks and all of that stuff that we use today. I'm not saying that they necessarily got the idea from Star Trek, but a lot of inventions have been real life created because of Star Trek. Matter of fact, the inventor of the cell phone, the first cell phone, the cell phone that was about in the 1980s, 1970s, said he got his idea from Star Trek. So, with that being said, that right there, the communicator, There's actually real world scientists right now working on tricorders for medical use. Wow. So if you are a nurse and you're off duty and you come across somebody that's injured or hurt, you flip out your tricorder. I don't know if that's what they're going to call it, but the device, it can scan and determine what's going on with the patient. That's great. All Star Trek. CAT scans. Star Trek. You know what I'm saying? All of these things are correlated from Star Trek. 3D printers. Star Trek. You know, because we don't have replicators, but 3D printers are becoming more and more advanced, and now they have 3D printers that can actually build houses. And they have 3D printers that can make drinks. 3D printers that can make food. Heck, I know they're working on 3D printers that can do limbs and body organs and whatnot. So we're trying to get there. Matter of fact, the military, and I don't know if the project is still in effect or if they're moving with it or not. I'm just, speculating, but I did hear about it. The military is trying to make holodecks. You know what a quantum leap in training that would do for the military? I mean, wow. That would be outstanding. So, the technology, the exploration of space. There's a saying by a rapper. His name is Ghostface Killer. And it's in relation to like existence. And in Star Trek, the question of existence always is brought up. Q said once, he was like, the exploration that you seek is not mapping stars in nebulae. It's the existence of the mind. It's the existence of the mind. It's the understanding of the mind and your existence in it. So, Star Trek really has less to do with exploring space and more to do with your existence, and also your mind. And that limitation of your mind. So with that being said, there's a quote from Ghostface Killer, and he's a rapper. And he says, sometimes I look up at the stars and analyze the sky and ask myself, was I meant to be here? Why? And I looked up at the stars at night and I think, what would my future be like if we had the technology of Star Trek? Would I be a YouTuber? Would I just be a regular citizen? What would I do? Now, I do know for a fact that the math, I'm not a fan of. I don't like the math at all. But aside from that, I would find some way, somehow, to get my butt into space. I would do almost whatever it would take to be able to be on a starship so I could see those strange new worlds. And from my perspective, it would be a strange new world. Like even if I went to Vulcan, and humans have been going to Vulcan for centuries, it would be a strange new world to me because I've never left Earth. So naturally, I would be excited. I would be overwhelmed. I would be flabbergasted that I got the chance to go to Vulcan and experience their extremely hot weather. But you know what? I would still go. Or if I got to go to Andor and I got to experience their extremely frigid weather where it's super cold, kind of like the Antarctic, but even worse, I would still want to go. Or if I could go to Risa and experience the pleasure planet where I'm able to sit back and relax and have a mojito and I'm able to sit on the beach or something equivalent and relax and chill out and read a book like Picard did, I would do that as well. I love Star Trek because it extends possibility beyond what we can comprehend and what we can perceive at our current stage of development, our current technologies, the limitations that we have. It allows a mere mortal like myself to be able to see the strange new worlds and the distant frontiers. And yes, it's from writers' minds, but those writers have exceptional ability to be able to express themselves to the point where another person will enjoy it. Star Trek is my favorite series. Do I like other science fiction shows? Absolutely. I can name one, The Expanse, outstanding science fiction show. I dare say it might be the best science fiction show on television, let me excuse myself, was the best science fiction show on television because there's no longer. The Orville is coming back out. I can't wait for the new season of the Orville to come out. So, yes, there are many science fiction shows that I'm a fan of. But, all in all, the best one is Star Trek. It's the best. Now, I made the statement before that I do like the Star Trek universe, but in my current stage of weight, I think I have a problem with their uniforms because it would not fit, wouldn't be comfortable, and I think the wool / spandex wouldn't extend far enough. So they might have to make me like an extra 4X large uniform, and it probably would look real awkward. I think I might be more comfortable with what Worf was wearing in that one episode where he pretended that he was the captain of the Enterprise. I think I would have a better time wearing that. Or even Klingon uniforms is not quite as cumbersome, so I think I would have a better time with them. But yeah, Star Trek is my staple. I gauge all other science fiction shows on against Star Trek. And if it doesn't equate nearly as much as Star Trek, then it's not a good science fiction show. Like, I give you an example. I watched The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is an outstanding science fiction show because it's in the realm of possibility of what Star Trek would possibly encounter. And I like the music. So that's one thing. But anyway, we all have our reasons why we like Star Trek or why we love Star Trek and why it has been pivotal in our lives. And I want to say to you this. If you like Star Trek, you need to list your reasons why you like Star Trek. Express yourself so everyone can see why it's such a benefit to you. Now, trust me, there's communities out there that don't like our science fiction love. But you know what? We're not concerned about them. Because science fiction supporters and fans are the people that create science fiction in real life. And this is a living testament. Cell phones right now, smartphones. They don't look like communicators like they once did, but they're pretty advanced. Anyway, as always, like I say at the end of every stream, what does Star Trek mean to you? Why are you a fan? That's my question. Leave in the comments so I can check it out, and I will respond. Like, share, and subscribe. And as always, live long and prosper.